So St Kilda is a team that has been consistently dragged through the mud by AFL fans over the last couple of years, and rightfully so. They haven't played a great brand of football for a number of years, and they're just a very defensive-orientated team. However, I think that 2025 will be different, and the main reason I say this is because the way that they ended the 2024 season was up there with some of the best teams in the competition. So if you have a look over here and see how they ended last season, obviously they had their big win over Sydney, where Logan McDonald missed that shot at goal, and in the last part of the season, they played an exciting, fast brand of football. As you can see, obviously they lost to Adelaide, but from there, they had some big wins, putting up some big scores. Obviously, you had the game against Brisbane, but other than that, they ended the year really strongly. And the last two games, especially against Geelong and against Carlton, were really fun games to watch. And I think one of the main catalysts for this is because of Filippo, who for most of the season had all the Saints fans coming for his head because of his lack of ability, and he was dropped to the VFL for a bunch of games throughout the season. But if you look at him and what he was able to do in the last 4 games he played last season, obviously he was dealing with a couple of injuries, but you can see here that he was really playing a lot of midfield time, which resulted in him getting a lot of disposals, obviously starting in that Sydney game. And as you can see here, playing a lot of midfield time. So the difference for Filippo in the back half of the season is pretty drastic. You can see the first, 7, 8, 9 games of the season, he was playing predominantly as a forward, and then went back to the VFL and came back into the side, absolutely dominating on a tear playing midfield. As you can see, it all started in that round 17 game against Sydney, where he puts up 117 fantasy points before backing that up for the rest of the season. But as you can see in the last couple of games of the season, here against Fremantle, here against Sydney, here against Adelaide, and here against Brisbane, he was back in the centre bounce and he was back to dominating. And there's just a couple of clips that I wanted to show you regarding this. So I just went onto the AFL app and I pulled up a couple of clips from his game against Sydney. And I just want to show you just how polished this guy is for a 21-year-old and how fit he looks to be an AFL midfielder. AFL, please don't copyright me on this. So you can see here just bursting through and running full acceleration in one direction, manages to pull the kick straight to Liam Henry here and sets up a goal, which I just think is just something that really experienced midfielders can only do. And the fact that he was able to pull this off in his first time in the midfield just really shows, some exciting signs for what could be to come in the future. So another clip here in the same game, AFL again, please don't copyright me for this. It's the first time doing something like this, so I don't really know. You can see him bursting through the 50 and just absolutely launching it straight through the big sticks. And that sort of thing was something that he was doing quite often throughout the back half of the season, and it started obviously in the VFL. So he's going to be playing a lot of full-time mid. They got rid of Brad Crouch, and I reckon this guy is probably their second most damaging midfielder, obviously behind Jack Steele, and maybe even their number one. So I can obviously see someone like Jack Sinclair going more to half-back with Riley Bonner being delisted. So Filippo is going to have a lot of opportunity to really show what he can do for a full season in 2025, and I'm absolutely super excited for that. So another player that's in St Kilda's midfield rotation now is Jack McCrae, who really got pushed out of that role in the midfield at the Dogs. But as you can see here, he had a really down year last year, but other than that, he has been one of the premier midfielders in the comp. I think he's a 2 or 3 time All-Australian, and you can just see his disposals here, 30 a game, 34 a game, 33, and he's still in the peak of his powers in terms of his age. So for McCrae to get back to that level is going to really be something that's very important for St Kilda and will elevate their ceiling next year. Obviously here you can see that Jack McCrae did not have many CBAs, only 12% CBAs for the season right here. He had a couple, or just really the one game where he not even got over 50% CBA, and other than that, he wasn't really even in their midfield at all. And if you compare that to obviously 2021, you can see that McCrae was the number one guy. And, he really had that Adam Treloar role, and then the Adam Treloar role that he's got now. So McCrae can definitely return to this, and if he can put up similar statistics to what he did at the Bulldogs, that's going to make a really damaging midfield at St Kilda. So the Saints are already a very youthful team. They've obviously got players like Darcy Wilson and Mitch Owens and Max King, Filippo, as already mentioned, and Hugo Garcia, who are going to get a year older. And these players are going to absolutely skyrocket this season. Having someone who can accumulate the ball the way Darcy Wilson can and also hit the scoreboard as well as getting back and being a two-way runner is something that's going to be very important for St Kilda moving into 2025. Along with that are the two most important forwards on the team, which are obviously Mitch Owens and Max King, who Max King especially had a very interrupted season, had a couple of injuries that he was dealing with, but having a full 2025 campaign, we can see what Ben King has been able to do for Gold Coast. He kicked maybe 55 to 60 goals this year, and Max King, I would argue, is the better out of the two brothers. So having a full season of Max King is going to be something very exciting to watch, which is something you don't really say for St Kilda, who have for a long time not been exciting whatsoever and not been a team that many people want to tune into. And I believe the Saints also drafted incredibly well this season. So I just wanted to show you a clip from one of their draftees from this season, which is Alex Taru. And you can see just the excitement that he's going to provide for this team, and he's going to be playing in defense. He's not going to rack up much of the ball, but having an athletic intercept marker who they brought in as a top 10 pick is just going to provide so much excitement and so much flair for this team. And accompany that with Nazaya Wanganeen-Malira and also Jack Sinclair, as well as Callum Wilkie in defense to mentor him. It's going to be really exciting, and for many years to come, he will be a staple in that defense. Another player running off halfback will be Toby Trevelya, who was also a top 10 pick for them, and I really don't want to get copyrighted for any of this, but this guy is just a great kick, great run off halfback, makes the right decision a lot of the time, and he could play more up in the midfield this year. Obviously, there's a lot of good halfbackers that are already on St Kilda's team, but just the smarts of this guy, his ability to rack up the ball, is going to be something that is going to help St Kilda a lot, which is obviously kind of a repetitive theme for this video. So we're just jumping around a little bit, but having a midfield that has Jack Steele, Matthias Filippo, Marcus Windhager, and Jack McCrae, as well as an all-Australian ruckman in Ron Marshall, is going to be a force to be reckoned with in 2025, and really could keep up with many of the top midfielders, because they've got all of the requirements for a team like that. They've got that burst and that speed of Filippo. They got the ball winning ability that McCrae provides, and then some great defensive midfielders as well with Jack Steele and Marcus Windhager. An all-Australian ruckman with Ron Marshall, who might also push forward because of the emergence of Alex Dodson, who could play a big role for this team. The Saints did delist Tim Membry in the off-season, which means that they are really going to be playing more through Max King and more through Mitch Owens, as well as the likes of Cooper Sharman. And I just think, along with the Collingwood video I made a couple of days ago, that a lot of these forwards really underachieved last year. Look at the averages of these goal scorers last year. Jack Higgins averaged 1 point a game, and he had a phenomenal season. Other than that, only Max King averaged more than 1 goal a game, because obviously Tim Membry's not there anymore. So the likes of Caminiti and Jack Hayes and Cooper Sharman, and especially Mitch Owens and Dan Butler, and Liam Henry as well, who's down there, they're going to need to show a lot more, and I reckon they will. And we obviously know Ross Lyon's a very proven coach. He's been to maybe 3 grand finals, hasn't won one yet, but he's an experienced coach that will be able to get all of these young players' abilities and be able to put them together to make a competent team. And if the end of last season was anything to go off, this Saints team is going to be very, very fun to watch in 2025.